Hey, it's me, Angela. So I've been in Vienna the last couple of days, and I haven't done quite as much here as maybe some of the other places that I've been to, mostly because Vienna wasn't part of my original trip. And why did I end up here? So when I was booking train tickets, because I booked flights, then train tickets, then like hotels and Airbnbs. And when I was booking train tickets, I realized that there wasn't a straight connection from Budapest to Venice that wouldn't be super time consuming. Um, and I know it seems, if you look at the map, I will post images of the maps and stuff on Facebook and if you follow me there. But I backtrack up to Vienna from Budapest. So when I go from Prague, I went through Vienna to get to Budapest. So it does seem like I'm backtracking. But from Vienna, there was a direct night train to go to Venice, which means I wasn't eating up a whole other day of travel. Because I will say that traveling during the day, um, it's been 6 to 7 hours that I'm on the train, which is fine because it's given me like a rest day that I've needed and some napping time and to work through some reading and assignments that I have and just give my body a break in truth. So I'm not upset about it, and also it's just a way to enjoy the countryside as well, moving from one city to the other. So Vienna wasn't part of the original plan, but I thought, why not? And then I figured if I'm going to be in Vienna, then I might as well do it big and go to an opera because Vienna, the State Opera House, is like the Lou of Paris, but for opera. And so even though opera was born in Italy, the Vienna State House is where a lot of things were debuted. And part of that is just, the royalty associated with Vienna. And I went and I had never seen an opera live. I've only ever seen, recordings and such. And I was blown away. What's really interesting is they have this modern touch where there's screens that you choose the language you want and it will give you the subtitles because it's in Italian. At least the one that I chose was in Italian. Most often they are. And very rarely are they not in Italian. And there were three choices that I had more or less because of the timing I was here in Vienna. And I could have done one that was done by Beethoven, but it was pretty lengthy and kind of dark. So I chose a typical romance, not a well heard of one perhaps, but I was very glad that I went. It was gorgeous. It is incredible that they don't use microphones. It is all just projection, and it was so beautiful. The talent of their voices, and I'm used to like theater where there's a lot of acting and movement, and there is some acting and movement in operas, but not so much. It is really about the voices and kind of the story. But the opera house, gorgeous. And it's not, the theater isn't as big as I thought it was going to be, but that's because when you see the building from the outside, you're like, wow, it's a significant building. But there's several areas for people to gather. And nowadays, you can get a drink and something to eat before the show and during intermission. And there's like a gathering place associated with each wing or area. So I think there is like 7 or 8 places that people could gather. And I was on the left side of the opera house in the first or second, I can't recall, row of boxes. And I had done some research, and you don't want to sit in the third row of the box or you're not going to see it, and you don't want to sit in certain areas or you're not going to hear it so well. But I had a pretty good line of sight the entire time, and it was very enjoyable. Actually, quite comfortable. The seats were pretty comfortable. So I was just in this box with six other people that I've never met. And so it was very enjoyable. Now, when I walked in, there was this long line of people waiting outside because the actual seats down below, all the box seats, people buy in advance. In fact, I'm pretty lucky that I got a ticket in general that's in a box, because everybody else, there's standing sections. So you can buy tickets the day of, and they're relatively cheap, 20 euros. And it's standing room only. So you might have a good line of sight, you might not, but I looked up occasionally to see everybody else and all the other seats, and they're like leaning over and they're like way up high. So I'm glad that I got a ticket in advance, and the line was very, very long. So I would have had to like get over there super early. So yeah, great experience. If you ever have the chance and you're interested in the arts or just the talent of singing, highly recommend. It was quite the experience. Then the next day I had a walking tour booked for the morning, and so I stayed out late. I went and ate somewhere afterwards, and it was like 1 a.m. I think before I got back to my Airbnb. So then I wasn't in any hurry the next morning, so I took my time getting ready to go to the walking tour. The guide that I had this time, you could tell he's just very prideful of being Viennese, of being Austrian, and he did a great job of mixing historical facts and kind of the rumors or the gossip that people might use today to talk about some of the significant figureheads of Austria. I have fallen a bit in love with the story of Sisi, Elizabeth, who was the empress of the Austrian-Hungarian, and then some kingdom. And she was married to Franz Joseph. So if you have Netflix and there's a show called The Empress, that's her. Although it is not completely accurate. Who knew? Wow, a Netflix series isn't completely accurate. But I didn't put two and two together until the guide had explained and kept mentioning the Netflix show. I was like, oh, now I kind of want to rewatch it. But very interesting, and she was born in the wrong time period. She was very athletic, and she just was kind of a free spirit, and I think we all know that doesn't go well with royalty. So yes, just really interesting history there. And then I didn't realize that Emperor Franz Joseph had a very dark life, lots of catastrophes and such, but apparently he was a very otherwise boring individual. So and Vienna itself is quite gorgeous, very clean, very well ran. The people think a lot of the mayor of Vienna, and the prime minister. There's been some rotations, and so I didn't quite catch everything that the guide was talking about. In the center of Vienna, it's like a ring, and so if you go around the ring, you can walk or take public transportation. You can see some pretty significant buildings, and a lot of the buildings are being repurposed for galleries and hold collections and such. But they're in great shape. And then if you didn't know, there is actually one balcony that is not open to public or anything at all, and that's because it's where Hitler gave his speech, basically initiating Austria into that whole dark part of history. Sorry, my caffeine hasn't hit yet. But I appreciated that the guide did touch on those dark pieces of history and was like, we need to understand and acknowledge instead of just sweeping it under the rug. So a lot of interesting things about Austrian history. And then Vienna is actually pretty large as, like a capital, as a city, because Austria is actually relatively small. And if you're looking for stark difference between Germany and Austria, not so much. The national language is German, although it's like a different dialect. And the way that it feels is somewhat similar, because it also has a dark history and a lot of rebuilding that had to happen after World War One and Two. But it is its own. There are things that are very Austrian that have nothing to do with Germany, and part of that is just kind of their interesting history and another quilted history, kind of like Budapest, but it's the other side, where Budapest was kind of, or sorry, Hungary is just kind of like being overseen by all these different entities. Austria was one of those entities, so very interesting. And yeah, just beautiful public transportation. I actually met someone in our tour group yesterday and had lunch with her, and she's originally from Argentina but now lives in Utah, and she was traveling by herself. And then somebody else from our group was going to the same place that we went to for lunch, and we had her sit with us, and she was from Switzerland. And I didn't realize Switzerland doesn't have a national language. They don't have their own language, but depending on where you live in Switzerland, almost everybody is learning German or Italian or French, depending on where you live in the country. But she had mentioned you can have 4 people in the same room, and they from Switzerland, and they won't be able to communicate with each other, and they all pretty much speak English. So I didn't know that about Switzerland. So we ate together, and then Nancy, the woman living in Utah, and I decided, let's just go trek around, because it was her last day in Vienna and I had nothing else planned. So we just bought day tickets for like all the public transit, and we just rode around to check things out. And then at night we went to 2 different palaces, and I'm going to butcher the names. Like Schönbrunn Palace was the summer palace for the royals, and then there's another one, Belvedere, and I don't remember quite the significance, but it houses a gallery. So we went to both of those at night, so you can't see a lot, but it is all lit up. And we, of course, got some Apfelstrudel at a place called Aida in kind of the main square near St. Stephen's. Actually, it is all the main square that St. Stephen's Cathedral is at. And we went inside the cathedral, and, well, they were having Mass. So you had to be quiet. She's like, oh, I wonder why they're having Mass. And I realized it was Ash Wednesday. Because Tuesday, when I came into Vienna, there was loads of people and children dressed in costumes, and I couldn't figure out what is going on, so I looked it up. For us, it would be Fat Tuesday or Mardi Gras that we would acknowledge in the United States. In other places, it might be Carnival. So I'm missing Carnival in Italy, but I'm not totally upset with that, because it would have been very busy in Venice. So I am hitting the very tail end of those celebrations, because I believe tomorrow or Saturday is like the last day of those celebrations. Although there have been other things going on leading up to it. So yeah, Ash Wednesday. I am getting ready to check out shortly. My plan is to go see Schönbrunn Palace because it's a little bit of a trek. It's not near the central area. It's like a 20-minute metro ride. But I'm checking out, and I've got to store my luggage at the train station so that I can just pick it up before I go to my train. And then I'd like to go back to the cathedral, and you can climb up the 350 some odd stairs to the top and get a good view of the city. So by then we'll see how I feel, because I considered doing ice skating. They have a huge ice skating rink that's in the square in front of, I believe it's like the state building, like the city hall or something like that. And so ice skate all around. But we'll see how I feel, how my legs feel. I might be pooped by then, and maybe I just go and check it out. I think a couple of days in Vienna wasn't enough as far as what I want to see. And again, wasn't initially planning to be here, but I'm glad that I stopped here. Very English friendly, very simple to get around. So if you're uncertain with language barriers, this would be a good option. And generally, I think flights into Vienna are pretty simple to find. So this is what I have so far. Let me show you where I've been staying. I'm packing still, so it's a little bit of a wreck, but what I have gathered, so it's an Airbnb, and what I've gathered is that these individuals actually own all the apartments in this building. So even though they say that they're not a hotel, they're kind of a hotel. So I sorted that out because of like the call panel, because you can press a button to call up to apartments, and they all are numbered like the keys that I got for this place. So I'm just kind of putting two, and then when I looked on Airbnb, there's like 30 some listings that they have that all have the same address. So have this gorgeous window. I am on a pretty busy street, so this morning it was a little noisy. At night it has been a little noisy, but not overly so. A couch, which was nice. There was no TV, which was fine. I just used my laptop, but it's not like I'm here to watch TV, but at night I do to unwind, and while I'm doing things like getting ready in the morning, because otherwise sometimes it's too quiet and I don't play music. So had a couch, and there was an ottoman that I put all my stuff on, and then a little coffee maker, so that was a nice touch. And then there was a kitchenette. So I had a stove, there's a fridge, down here is a fridge, a microwave, and I thought, oh, I'm going to get some groceries and I'm going to cook. Every single place that I've had the option to do that, I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't. And most of the time it's just because I am run, go everywhere. And then when I get hit with hunger, it is long before I'm coming back here or where I'm staying. So it's just how the cookie crumbles. And then I had a nice little seating area, which I didn't use. I just threw my stuff there. And then there's a door. This is what's odd, is each room is really disconnected. Okay, so go in here, and then there's like all these doors. That's why it's kind of strange. Let me see where the light is. My bed is a mess, but it was a comfortable enough room, and they actually left some cute little sweets, some Viennese sweets, and then like, yeah, a little welcome thing. So that was interesting. And these were the biggest towels that I've had so far. It's such a weird thing to know. And then the bathroom, the original posting didn't mention a washing machine, but I would have had the option to wash things here. And had I known that, maybe I would have planned things a little bit differently. The shower seems small, but it actually was plenty of space, and then there's plenty of like room to put all my stuff, even though I didn't really spread out because I knew I wasn't staying here very long. And then this is the doorway. So yeah, a comfortable little spot, well worth it, and very close to everything that I needed to get to. It's like a 10-minute walk to the Opera House, and then from there like another 5 to 10 minutes to the cathedral. So that's Vienna so far. Yeah, I don't have a lot more to say. We'll see what happens after I go to the palace, and I'm sure I can't take any pictures inside the rooms of the palace, but I can outside in the courtyard and the gardens. So all right, auf Wiedersehen or tschüss,
And Dankeschön for watching this one. All right, on to the next. Can't wait for bed. And then home. I'm really missing home then. Okay, bye.